right, we're back for another episode of The Mortgage Show. How are you doing?
It's good, buddy. How are you?
Doing good, man. It's been a whirlwind month, I'd say, since last episode that we recorded. Made a nice little trip yesterday to Hooksett. Want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about it. We went to Hooksett. We met the new people, underwriters, closers. I was tearing through some of my social media.
Yep.
And I came across a couple of pictures that I took when we actually signed on with NORCOM. So yesterday, that Hooksett, I mean, there was just a bunch of stuff going on in my mind of like when I started my own brokerage, when we went to NORCOM, and here we are in Hooksett.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of neat. I like this change.
So just to be clear, Hooksett is where CMG New England is based out of. So all our operations people, underwriting, processing, a bunch of different positions there, our bosses there. So we hadn't met those people other than team meetings, seeing their picture in the bottom of a footer of an email or talking to them on the phone. So it was an opportunity to drive up there, get a chance to bring some lunch, talk. We were there for an hour and a half, and it was awesome to meet everybody. They were as great as I would have imagined.
Shout out to the Saco Island Deli. Those guys killed it.
Everybody loves Saco Island Deli.
Yeah,
everyone loved the deli and company. It was really interesting to meet all these people that have been working hard for us, because here we are 4 months in from NORCOM. All these people have been working really hard for us, getting our deals closed, and to put some faces to the names, I thought was amazing.
I think that's really good. And what I took from it was, you and I have a long history. There's many things that flood my mind with things that we've done over the years. I was listening to the group of girls talking to one another and about their different stops, and it just had me thinking for a minute. From my first day in the chair doing originating mortgages to this conversation, so many groups of people have come and gone, and it was cool to listen to a good group of people that have been together for 10 plus years. CMG has a good flow. It's like the people were already together producing, and it's just a fine oiled machine. They just seem to like each other.
And listening to him talk, it amazes me how small the mortgage industry is in New England. I was blown away by how many people that we knew collectively, mutual people. Oh, I used to work with that person. They used to work at so-and-so place. It really is just this small industry. If you're in it long enough, you end up working with people. They go someplace, you come back and work together again. It was a good reminder of that.
The cross-pollination.
Yeah.
It's insane, man.
It really is. The thing I loved about NORCOM was just the tight-knit, close family. It wasn't a huge company. I think there was like 300 people, maybe a little bit more or less, but it felt like you knew everybody. You had a real impact on the company. One of my concerns about going to CMG was just like, wow, we're one of 3,600 people now. But the way CMG New England operates within CMG as a whole is kind of like what we had at NORCOM. Yeah. CMG New England is its own thing with its own ops people. Going there yesterday was like, this is a breath of fresh air. This is kind of the stuff that I loved about NORCOM, where everyone worked really well together. It wasn't 3,600 people that are all on the same team. I guess we are to some degree, but it's a few hundred person team working hard for Maine, New Hampshire, Mass, and basically New England.
Randy, it's so interesting. I was just thinking how you're in an area sometimes where it's like, I can't even believe I haven't met some of my peers that I've competed against. It's kind of a small world. It's just funny to me, all of the people that have come and gone over the years, and they're all good people. And it was really refreshing to feel at home. I had this moment a couple of days ago where I finally felt settled from all this. And then following up and meeting all these great people.
I actually feel like that initial period is over, and between yesterday meeting all those people that we hadn't met yet in person, and then what happened at our office today, we had the final finishing touches on our office, had a nice new mural put up in our conference room. We have some artwork for the walls. We have a CMG Home Loans logo inside. The NORCOM mortgage is scraped off of our exterior glass doors, replaced with CMG Home Loans signs. That had been taking forever to get done for a whole bunch of reasons, but that is done as of today. We meet all these people yesterday. Now we can close the chapter on this intro period at CMG, and now I feel like I can move forward.
It's the project that we had with our building and how long it took. When we bought this building, we rehabbed it. There was a lot going on. It was hard to get subs. Took forever to get it done. We finally get it done. This change happens. Here we are 4 months later, waiting for everything to be done. Today, walking in the office, I was just like, man, I love this building. I really do. But it's like there's been two phases of it where I've been super annoyed with this building, and today I did not feel like that.
The thing that will really end that intro chapter is our hats are being shipped out on August 22nd. So remember that. August 20th, new hats in a couple weeks. That part of the whole transition will be over too. All good stuff. Shout out to people in Hooksett. Love you all. It's been great getting a chance to work with you for the 4 months and meet you guys. It was a pleasure.
It's love already.
It feels like it's 4 months, but it feels like a long time. Honestly, the past 4 months have been crazy.
I love it.
You're the
Randy's
best.
a big love bug.
All right, mortgage stuff. We are into the period of time now where those NAR changes, National Association of Realtor, changes that we've been talking about for the past few months are now in place. I think they moved it up to today. What have you been hearing about that stuff? How's it impacted things, people you work with? Have you heard anything?
More communication. It just seems like more disclosure, more communication. I think it's going to be important for us to get buyer agreements.
Got it.
I mean, just creating more disclosure. What's your takeaway from some of your conversations?
I've talked to realtors that have said that they've lost buyers because of it. Because what has to happen now is sellers do not have to offer any money towards a buyer's commission at this point. And I guess people would say that's always been the case, and that's fine. But like, it's more clear to sellers now that they don't have to offer that. So if they don't offer that commission for the buyer's agent, then a buyer is going to have to pay for that themselves. So at least one of the agents I talked to this week said that she's lost a couple buyers because they don't think that they can pay her commission, and the houses that they want, the seller isn't offering any commission. So they ended up just both pivoting to the listing agent. And in that case, the listing agent isn't working on behalf of the buyers. They're just there to give them paperwork and not provide any advice. That's what they're forced to do because they don't have the money to pay, the 2.5% or 3% or whatever she was charging her buyers. On a $400,000 home, 3% is $12,000. So if a buyer doesn't have that and the seller's not willing to pay for it, then it's a tough situation.
I could see listing agents obtaining some business with the listings where the harder sell is, hey, let's just focus on the commission for me. Let's let the buyer worry about the commission. Right now, the leverage is still there for somebody to go after a listing like that. I sort of wonder as the market brings on more inventory if that philosophy changes.
If it makes sense to really start putting a buyer's commission in there to attract more buyers.
I like the fact that I'm noticing on some of these emails with these listings coming through, it's clear as day what they're offering for a buyer commission. They're making it visible now.
Yeah. So we're into that new world starting now, and I'm always interested to hear what agents think, referral partners think, how it's affecting their business. This is just a conversation I had this week, and I was kind of blown away. Because there's certain people that are like, oh, this is business as usual. This is how I always do things. It's no change for me. I have lunch with someone and she wasn't like all doom and bad news. She was just like, I lost a couple buyers because they can't pay me and it makes sense for them to go directly to the listing agent. And the thing that she expressed was more concern for them because when that buyer goes to the listing agent, they're not getting what she would have provided in terms of advice and holding their hand. I mean, these people are getting none of that by going directly to the listing agent because the listing agent is only focusing on the seller. And they're just getting someone to give them the paperwork, not advise them, not negotiate, not look out for their best interests. So it's a really tough situation.
Randy, guess who made out in all of this?
Some lawyers, maybe?
The lawyers did.
Good for them.
Thanks,
we should have been lawyers. Should we have been lawyers?
Why are we doing mortgages?
Could you imagine us being lawyers? It's so funny.
Could you imagine the things that would come out of my mouth?
Confidentially? Mm-hmm. All right, so a couple things to mention on this NAR stuff before we move on. A big thing we've been talking about with agents over the past few months is how, let's just have the seller concessions go towards the buyer agent fee and how that works, right? Different loans have different max seller concessions. For example, a conventional loan, a seller is allowed to contribute 3% of the purchase price towards closing costs. Please reach out to us for questions with that. If a buyer's agent commission was 3%, there was the thought that the max 3% seller concession could go towards that, but it would also eat it all up. At that point, you wouldn't be able to ask for more seller concession if there's deficiencies with the house and you need more than that 3%. What are you going to do? It's come out that if a seller pays a buyer's agent commission, that does not go towards the max seller concession. That leaves money that can go towards other things too. I thought that was a good thing that's come out recently.
That helps. I don't like it when things work against us, and that is not working against us. So that's good
Yeah.
news.
So that's good news. And then the other thing, if you want to talk about it, is just the VA ban on commissions that was lifted. Do you want to comment on that?
It's really funny, man. It's a lot of these VA scenarios I dive into. Nobody's gone under contract the last couple of days. If you've got more intimate knowledge on it, definitely.
To catch everyone up to speed, if you're doing a VA loan, historically, you could not pay your agent a commission yourself as the buyer. So a lot of times in the past, if a buyer's agent is getting, say, 3% commission and the seller's only paying 2.5%, normally the buyer would pay that agent an extra 0.5%, right? But with VA loans, this always came up because VA does not allow a buyer to pay their agent's commissions, right? So the concern when this whole thing came into play, it's like buyers are going to have to now pay their agent commissions. What are we going to do with VA loans? With a loan that doesn't allow you to pay your buyer's commission, how is this even going to work? Does this mean we don't do VA loans? Long story short, VA lifted that ban. So VA now allows buyers to pay their real estate agent's commission themselves, which makes this a viable program now.
You just dominated that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So how about you dominate something for me next?
All right, let's do it.
Give me an update on interest rates.
It's a fun topic for me, and I think I make a lot of marketing, based off of it. And it's like the last couple of years, there's been hope within all of these economic reports that I'm always hoping for stagnation because that brings down the interest rates. And now we're at the ground floor of tame inflation. Inflation seems to just keep coming in really comfortable areas. Now we're starting to see on the opposite side, like retail sales and manufacturing. It's been month over month now that some of these reports aren't meeting expectations. There was a mixed bag today. Some of the retail stuff was a little harder, but it looks like the trend is going to be lower from here on out. I know that in the past, economic news equaled if rates went up or down, but it almost seems like there's something external here that won't allow them to shoot down or rapidly up anymore. I wonder if you get concerned. Rates need to come down to spur a bit more activity, but it can inflame pricing again. I just don't know what that looks like, but
it's theory at this point. It's something that people talk about could happen if rates go down, and it makes sense. Like the people that make that argument that, well, if rates come down, prices are just going to go up because that much more demand is going to, and then we're going to get back in this inflationary cycle. I don't know. It makes sense to me, but I do know it feels like rates are coming down, and we're all expecting a rate cut by the Federal Reserve in September. And at least from what I gather, it's just whether or not it's 25 basis points or 50 basis points. There's still some economic reports that need to come out between now and then that'll play a role in that.
Year over year, we're down 0.75 of a point on average. Through the first quarter of next year, I bet we're down another 50 basis points, a half point in that area.
Which would get us into that 6 range, because we are, for good credit, big down payment, big equity people, you're probably in the mid 6s, I would say, in certain situations. If we get around 6, that would be a game changer. What do you say to people that are considering refinancing right now? That's the thing for me that I'm trying to weigh. Are we jumping the gun? Should we wait? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Excellent question, because we're sitting in August. If they do it now, CMG with our refi program, if you look at 6 payments from after a refinance in this area now, where we're going to offer a free refinance for people, if you want to talk about that program real quick, we call it rate rebounds. We pay a lot of the third-party fees. Escrows roll over. So really, it's a pretty clean refinance where we're not adding anything to your loan amount for the cost of the loan to refinance.
Yeah.
Let's say my prediction's right. We're going to gain another half point by, say, February, March. You refinance now, you're probably getting yourself 0.75 to a point lower if you bought within the last 12 months. So that's going to provide some relief. You have a cost to that, though, because it's the first refinance. 6 months from now, 6 payments from now, if rates go down half a point, maybe an eighth more from there. Now you're in our free refinance programs. I'm struggling with it also, but I look at that second tier of non-cost, and it's going to be a benefit, I think. So people want some relief now. I think it's a good time to look at it.
Absolutely. I've been running some numbers. I haven't submitted any new refis at this point, but I've sent out a bunch of numbers, and I expect that it's just a matter of time.
What I'm noticing is debt consolidation is going to hit us like a tidal wave, is what I think. I'm starting to get pretty regular inquiries of, I don't qualify for a home equity loan, because as debt goes up, FICO scores go down. When your home equity lines are unavailable to you, you normally need your mid FICO score of 700 or above.
Yeah.
If you're not in that area, how do you provide relief? You do a cash out refinance. So these interest rates are starting to make sense, where if you're sitting in the fours area, but sitting on a pile of consumer debt that's up by 13 to 17%, maybe taking your mid 6% interest rate now is not looking as bad.
Yeah. It's starting to at least be on the table.
We're in an interesting area because I think we're going to start getting both sides of this between purchase business and refi business. It's coming.
I would say 2024 has been a better year business-wise than 2023 was. I thought 2023 was just a nightmare altogether. My hope is that 2025 gets us back to what we're used to. Not 20 and 21, but just more normal type years where you do mix in refis, you have strong purchase business.
Yep.
It's been interesting. So, okay, I'm going to move on to something else, if that's cool with you.
Let's do it.
I wanted to comment on something I've enjoyed from CMG that I think is good for our referral partners to be aware of. Working for a big company, what does that mean? You know, there are downsides. It's corporate, probably more corporate than other companies, but you do have access to resources that you wouldn't have at smaller companies. Yep. One of the things is we have access to different teams at CMG that take things off our plate that we would have had to deal with ourselves. We have teams specifically for renovation loans, construction loans, and the condo approval process. For example, with condo approval, people don't realize that when you're getting a loan on a condo, you're not only approving the borrower, their income, assets, liabilities, and their ability to pay, but you're also approving the condo. Approving the condo means getting their budget, bylaws, insurance, this questionnaire form that someone has to fill out. When you're doing a loan on a condo, it's almost like you have two different borrowers that you're trying to manage, except that when you're trying to get stuff out of the condo, it's actually very hard. You know, could be a condo treasurer or president that's on a beach down in Florida or happens to be traveling, and it just gets to be a pain in the butt. We have this team of people that you just send them the person's name and they track it all down. They know the documents inside and out. I have a couple condos that I barely lifted a finger when it came to approving the condo, and they got it all done very quickly. It's been nice. Same thing goes for renovation and construction loans as well.
Lifting the finger is it's so nice as a loan officer to not have to deal with any of that. It allows us to prospect. It allows us to have conversations, more meetings, because you could be the biggest guideline savant between a construction loan, renovation loan, and a condo association. And you could sit there with one question as a loan officer and really stew about it for hours in between the million things we need to do all day. You take care of it. You do this every day. You answer these questions. We should bring up the fact that we're a corporate company, but our Northeast division, as we were talking about in Hooksett, it's nice because they're servicing the Northeast. It's not like we're going into these platforms and we're one of 3,500 loan officers throughout the country using this platform. It's Northeast people helping us with this. Yeah,
it's been very nice. A little bit of a perk of working with a big company. It's been nice not having to do it. Like you said, it allows us more time to talk to our customers, prospect, service our referral partners, things that we should be doing as salespeople. So I think it's important for people to know that we have all these efficiencies and people that do a good job. There's people that look at condo questionnaires all day long. If there's an issue with it, they know right away. It's a well-oiled machine. It's been very nice.
It's a Norcom feel on steroids.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to mention, and hopefully you're cool with it, Beds, but we were talking a little bit about derogatory credit and waiting periods following different derogatory events.
Yep.
Derogatory events being foreclosures, short sales, bankruptcies, things like that, and how long you have to wait to get a mortgage again. I was hoping that we could chat a little bit about that, maybe educate some people, because earlier in my career, I used to refer to this list all the time. People come in at a short sale. People come in, I had a foreclosure. When can I do their loan? Is it 2 years? Is it 4 years? Is it 6 years? So I was constantly referring to these matrices. I haven't looked at one, I feel like, in a very long time. And then it was sent out to us with updated information. We wanted to run through it. Does that sound all right?
It sounds great. The quick question I have is, this one caught me the other day. Conventional foreclosure, how many years do you need to wait?
I would think 4.
Okay. It is 7. It's 7. And let me tell you, I thought 4 also.
You're right. So pre-foreclosure or short sale is 4 years. Yep. 7 years. Wow. Foreclosure is a big one because foreclosure means you got a mortgage, you did not pay it. They took like the last thing that a lender wants because a conventional loan isn't insured by the government. So lenders very much do not want people foreclosing on conventional loans. If you had a foreclosure in the past 7 years, yeah, sorry. What?
FHA.
Same
Foreclosure.
thing. 3 years.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm looking at the matrix now. Yeah, it's 3 years. Government loans are always going to be a little bit more lenient as we run through this.
Yeah.
So you might not want to do an FHA loan over a conventional loan, and there's reasons that people avoid those nowadays, but it might be the only show in town if you have a foreclosure. So with VA loan, it's 2 years.
Yep.
USDA loan, 3 years. That's a big one.
It's huge because I have a borrower right now in my pipeline that has 30% down. He had a foreclosure in the last 7 years. He's outside of 3 years. Instead of going conventional, I actually have to take him FHA. So It's like, here's a case of somebody that shouldn't have MI, but they have to use the FHA product.
How about we talk about short sales? Okay.
Let's do it.
So short sales when you sell a home for less than what the mortgage balance. Pretty rare in this case. Would you agree? I mean, I don't see them all the time, but we used to see them a lot.
Yeah.
Coming out of 2008. It says 4 years from the short sale with conventional financing, but it also says, and I'd be interested in your thought on this, 2 years with extenuating circumstances. And I almost avoid explaining that because I almost feel like nothing is truly considered an extenuating circumstance.
It's okay. So this was on the Mortgage Pub, and I read through this string of like 150 comments. LOs all over the country. If you're going to get divorced and you have this like really big story of like, you know, the spouse did this to me and this happened with the job and all that, that's actually not something that's going to work. I've noticed that the ones that got through were something natural disaster wise. Somebody.
What about like a cancer scenario or like even is that considered extenuating circumstance where you couldn't work?
I noticed that some health stuff did go through, but everybody that had the story of the divorce was like, do not do it. Stay away from it. Unless there is a murder situation, it's what I saw.
Yeah, that's a tough situation.
Yeah, so it's like entry-level stuff, you're not going to get away with it. Stuff that actually makes sense.
Well, I bring it up because everyone has a story, right? You have a story why you're short selling your home. Like, no one just short sells their home because they think it's a good idea at the time. It's because of something, but not every story is what's truly considered an extenuating circumstance where you'd be able to lower that from 4 years to 2 years. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm seeing that if you've had 0 30-day late payments in a 12-month period of time, there is no waiting period on an FHA loan. Yeah. So, and honestly, you probably do have some late payments if you're short selling your home. So in that case, it's 3 years.
That one to me is like the responsible borrower that knows the ship is going down.
Yeah, but that's pretty rare. Okay. Eligible without a mandatory waiting period if veterans' overall credit is good. So that seems kind of like a little bit gray. And then 3 years on a USDA loan. All right, last one that we want to focus on. Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Chapter 7 is more common than Chapter 13. But why don't we focus on Chapter 7? Chapter 13 is a little weird. But on conventional financing, 4 years from the discharge or dismissal date, which is very important to know.
Okay, top right. Yep.
Yeah. And then FHA, it's 2 years from the discharge date. And then VA, 2 years from the discharge date and 3 years on USDA. It's good to be reminded, because I do think that there's a world where this stuff starts to come back up more. And, these things change every so often. It's nice to be up to date on this stuff. And just knowing that foreclosure is like a big issue still.
I think it's huge for our referral partners to know if people have gone through things, there are options still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The loans that provide the most leniency within the guidelines, like higher DTIs, lower FICO scores, but the rate isn't as jacked as conventional. The government stuff seems to be more forgiving in these areas, which is nice. Yep.
That is the derogatory credit matrix we looked at. We can share that info anytime anyone has any questions. So that's it for me, Beds. I don't know if you have anything you want to mention before we wrap it up.
I just had a conversation with somebody in a different market north of Florida. It seems like some of the family I have in Florida talked to this person in Georgia. The inventory is sitting a little bit longer just south of us. We're always sitting in this bubble up here in Maine. We're starting to see more inventory. I'm just curious, before we wrap this up, of where, between the interest rates falling and maybe a bit more inventory coming on, what's going to happen with values, with more buyers maybe coming to the table. I hope that our stuff doesn't push people away. I'm really curious to see what our next 6 months looks like.
I hear that same stuff too. And I do think that every real estate market is local. The Northeast is different than down there, but you are starting to see some things creep on the market a little bit longer, 18 days, 20 days. That's stuff that you didn't see last year. You'll be looking at a weekend and the house is gone, a day, an hour, so to have stuff sitting a little bit longer is a sign of something, but we'll see how it all plays out with rates coming down.
So before we wrap this up, Randy, what is your conventional 20% down prediction for January 1st, 2025? Mid FICO score of 762.
I would say 6%.
Okay. I was going to say, I don't know why I'm saying 5.875.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it would be nice to have a 5 in front of that.
You know what's funny, man, is I feel like
a lot of people need to see that. Things will get nutty when it's in the 5s. Yeah,
I mean,
it's kind of like why people list a house or list a car for sale for $39,999. It's like you see that number in the 5s. It doesn't matter if it's 5.875 or 5.25. It's in the 5s, and that's the thing that gives people hope, I guess.
It was a good summer. It's starting to get a little colder in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
My walks have changed a little bit as far as the temperature is concerned. I'm that old guy in the mortgage industry, like knowing what's coming up the next couple of months. So I hope these rates are down for us.
Absolutely. Please know that we're happy to help any way we can. Reach out to us with questions, pre-qualifications, rate stuff, NAR stuff, anything you heard us talk about. We're always happy to educate and help any way we can.
Thanks for listening.